just mark this down. Put it in your phone as a note and remind me of this on social media. Hit me up at Twitter at Jimmy Fallon, or you can message me on the Fox Across America Facebook page. I don't care. But remember, I told you this. You're going to be reading an op-ed in 2028 when we have a Republican standard bearer, a new nominee, whether it's J.D. Vance, whether it's Marco Rubio, could be anybody. And it could be somebody we're not even talking about right now in the Republican Party. But you are absolutely positively going to read op-eds about how they're only here to finish Trump's grand white supremacist Nazi plan. That's going to happen. And you say, wait, no way, he won't even be in office. That would be like so beyond shame to write things like that. Guys, they're writing them now. They're telling you Stephen Colbert's cancellation was some form of fascism. Okay? Yes, Trump is a fascist. That's why he waited until he won an election, lost an election, went to jail, and then won another election to get going on the fascism stuff. Guys, I don't know what you know about fascists. I don't know what you know about dictators, but the minute they get power, that
can't be good.
It never is. Okay? It's not 3 terms in. It's not 2 elections and 1 indictment in. If he's a fascist, you'd know it by now. Okay, Jon Stewart tried making this point yesterday. Jon Stewart tried saying, Colbert's firing, is a shot across the bow at everybody trying to truth to power. No, it's not. Okay, Colbert did not get fired because he criticized Trump. Colbert got fired because the show loses $40 million a year. And yes, he probably picked a bad time to be critical of management. If you're losing management $40 million a year, you're in trouble to begin with. But if this was just about criticizing Trump, they fire Colbert and they replace him with somebody. But in this instance, they didn't replace him with anybody. They canceled the whole entire franchise.
I think he's got a point.
Yeah, and the point is, everybody on the left telling you this is authoritarianism is full of okay, Colbert sucked. That's a problem. He took the demographic of CBS up by 8 years. I want you to think about this. Letterman had an audience that skewed slightly older. His average demo for the show, demographic watching the show, was 60 years of age. Great age to be. Okay. Colbert, coming over from Comedy Central, had an average demographic of 44 years old. So a younger crowd than Letterman by 16 years. Wow, look at that. So we're going to bring over a younger audience when we get this Colbert fella.
Not even close.
He was such a one-note partisan hack, even last night in his first show after the cancellation, did 11 minutes of a horrible Trump impression. But you understand the end result of these 10 years of activism masquerading as comedy is that the only people watching Stephen Colbert anymore are self-hating white people who live on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, remote parts of Brooklyn, inside the D.C. Beltway, and I don't doubt some areas up in Greenwich, Connecticut. But the reality is the average demographic for Stephen Colbert on CBS, okay, when he took over, Letterman's average demo was 60 years of age. Do you know what Colbert's is? 68. And again, that's a great age to be, okay? It's a great age. You got a lot of wisdom. You're done with a lot of the BS in life. They tell you the most efficient living you'll ever do is over the age of 50. In terms of just like, not caring as much, letting stuff roll off your sleeve, just accepting who you are and understanding yourself and what makes you happy and stuff. The best life you can live is that post-50-year-old life. I'm told that all the time. But understand just the same, if you were brought in to make the audience younger and you raised their age by 8 years, you didn't really do the gig. Now, why didn't it work? Because young people do want to have a good time. Not to say old people don't. Have you ever gone down to the villages? They've got the highest rate of STDs in the world because older people didn't grow up using protection.
Oh, yes. I've read about that in the Bible.
But the point is, it ain't stopping them from having a good time down in the village.
I love it when you talk dirty.
Anyway, okay, I am not here to blaspheme the elderly. They're doing a wonderful thing. But the point is, the reason you didn't grow your audience with young people is the type of older person watching Colbert is just a self-hating, grievance-minded liberal who wants to outsource all of their disdain for themselves onto you and me. You know, if you don't like the choices you've made in life, or you don't like yourself, or there's some insecurity, it's really easy to turn on a show every night that tells you who else sucks. Because it's never going to be you on Colbert. They're never going to criticize the Democrats. They've had 100 politicians on the show. 99 of them were liberal. 99. Okay, but stick with me. Okay, the reason people didn't gravitate towards the show is because comedy is not supposed to revolve around a stated enemy. Comedy is supposed to revolve around a shared good time. So if you are truly and effectively doing comedy, you're not here to get someone. Okay, you're here to get drunk. You're here to get laid. You're here to get laughing. You're here to get eaten, whatever the hell, get dancing, whatever you do at a party, I don't know. But you don't show up at a party to get mad. And that's what they did on that show. So they alienated and accelerated the decline of traditional late night. This is worth telling you. Yes, different viewing habits were emerging in a, post-streaming world. Meaning we're not beyond it. It's just a new thing. I guess you'd call it a post-television world. You understand when Colbert started, they had 200 people and a massive budget because they had, 8 or 10 million people watching late night. He turned that into 2.4 million people, and he accelerated that decline going from, say, 10 million down to 2.4 million, because in addition to fighting with other TV shows, you know how to fight with YouTube shows and TikTok videos and Instagram lives and stuff like that. And celebrities who were the one thing that made late night unique is that you had access to celebrities on a late night show because they were promoting a movie, or they were out there talking about some new project, or they were in town for some benefit or some stand-up show, whatever the hell it was. Late night used to dominate the zeitgeist because the people who made the most headlines would make them on late night shows. Okay, do you remember when Madonna went on Letterman and gave him a hard time, and that became like a 5-year story? Do you remember the Joaquin Phoenix clip? Do you remember Hugh Grant on Leno when he got busted with a hooker? And in the first interview he did was with Leno, and he goes, all right, the first question, he goes, what the hell were you thinking? And everyone laughed for about 20 minutes. This stuff happened on late night shows. They dominated the zeitgeist because that's where celebrities hung out. Celebrities now, every time you open the phone, there's a celebrity desperate for some type of attention. Hey, man, I'm doing Pilates. Check me out. Hey, I'm Bill Belichick's 12-year-old girlfriend, or whatever the hell she is, making him pretend that I am a mermaid and he's catching me on the beach and we're posting it on Facebook, even though he's at the age where he calls it the Facebook. Okay, that stuff is everywhere now. We no longer keep up with the Kardashians. Everyone has become the Kardashians, and we're all playing on the same playing field when it comes to celebrity engagement. So late night was going to lose viewers because TV viewing habits were changing. But it alienated them just the same by turning it into a political fight. It was just a hamster wheel of hatred for right-wing people. And then when you throw away the value of a celebrity interview, which they don't matter anymore. If you have a celebrity on late night for a 5-minute scripted interview, it's not going to matter to people who can see that same celebrity on an hour radio podcast. It's not going to matter to that person who now knows the average celebrity has a podcast. Think about it. There used to be a time when Michelle Obama coming on a show would get you 1 million extra viewers. Now there's nobody on earth that wants to listen to Michelle Obama.
Tell it like it is.
Okay, and she's rambling on for hours at a time with her brother that looks so much like her. It reminds me of that scene in The Nutty Professor when he plays every character at the table. Okay, but the point is, a guy like Colbert just accelerated his own decline. He didn't get canned because Trump is a fascist or any of the other things liberals are trying to attribute this to. Okay, people go to comedy, specifically late night, to disengage from the adversities they face in their everyday life. Late night is supposed to be an opportunity to laugh at your problems, laugh at our shared existence as Americans, and go to bed with a smile on your face. When you're trying to overturn an election or sell us on the idea that someone's a Russian asset or Vladimir Putin or a Nazi, I mean, who has better dreams at night if you just think about Hitler stuff before bed? Not anybody. And that's unfortunate because most of Colbert's audience fell asleep watching it.
Correctamundo.
I'm in an awkward spot with our next guest because like the last 3 times she's been on, we've had a guest host. And it looks like, I think she's figured it out from the look in my eyes that I've been avoiding her. But we're going to try to make it work here. Debra Leah is back for some radio couples counseling. Good to see you, pal.
Great to be back. And I'm actually going to change my name so you least expect me. New guest. Who's that? Never had them. It's me. You can't get away. You'll never get away from a woman.
That's funny. Change your name to something more respected like Ghislaine Maxwell. I'm kidding. Stop it. Cheap shot at Deb.
Unless you're Pam Bondi, I don't think that's going to work over here.
Good to see you, pal. That story. Woo! A lot going on. We may get to that during this interview, but I have something else to talk to you about. You've, of course, been following the New York City mayor's race up close and personal. I try to make this point to the rest of the country because the rest of the country doesn't actually care who runs New York City. They just don't.
They should.
Oh, of course, because I'm trying to explain that to about 200 other radio stations that aren't New York radio stations. That what happens here is kind of a blueprint for what happens everywhere else. You know, like if you're developing a product, say a cereal, it actually starts in the smallest market in America, and they see how it sells before they expand. In politics, it starts in the biggest market and goes the other way. So if the Democrats can win in New York, as liberal as it is with socialism, guess what's going on the ballot in 2028? Amen.
Yeah, I mean, we're already seeing that right now, and I believe it's Michigan, the Captain Phillips guy.
Oh, Minnesota.
Minnesota, the brother, both of them are going downhill, but Minnesota, Ilhan Omar's native, not really native country, but her native state now in America. A Somalian guy who is literally proud socialist. He's also now winning. He won I believe it's governor race there. It's crazy, and that's exactly true.
Great point, Debra Leah. And again, these are the kind of policies or positions that people would pay a lot of money to destroy the tape. But they're not trying to destroy the tape. These are new. This is new content. This is not like I said it 10 years ago and I don't mean it now. This is what they're running on, which is crazy, no?
I think they're banking on, it's been like a product by design. We've destroyed education in this country. It's become indoctrination. Nobody's really learning. We've seen that any of the man on the street content that you see, people don't know how many quarters are in a dollar. They don't know who the first president is. They don't even know what the Cold War was fought over. I think like 13% of Americans think it was because it was too cold in Russia. I'm not even kidding. There's like actual studies done on this stuff. So I think they're banking on people's lack of education now, and they've realized, okay, we got society, we got this new generation as dumb as we can get them. I don't know. You can always get dumber. Now let's throw new ideas at them. They can't even define socialism. Some people think, yeah, it worked so well in Venezuela. What? I'm sorry, what did you just say? They really don't know. And I think that's how these policies are getting across. But that's a way to get across too. We can't just rely on, people who are common sense, they're not going to vote for this. People don't have that anymore. And we've been saying that for years. And now it's the effect of that. Yeah,
Debra Leah is in studio. The problem is you can't win them back by calling them dumb, which is, essentially what they tried to do to stop the Trump momentum. Is they were like, they're all a bunch of dumb Nazis. And that really wasn't much of a sell, especially when the other side is actually pretty pro-Hamas right now. But let me ask you this. Do you believe it is education that's taken a younger generation, not yourself, but people your age, and led them to believe that life should be free?
Oh, 1,000%. I'm 25 years old. I went to University of Maryland, which was like, all Big Tens, I think, are pretty liberal nowadays. Marilyn Hogan, very liberal guy over there. I had a professor in public policy who fought with me because she said to the entire class that as it stands, Black people cannot succeed in the United States of America. And I stood up and as a white woman, I spoke out against that because I think that's a horrible thing to say and a horrible message to preach to young Black children. No matter how hard you try, you can't succeed. That's awful advice. That's not hopeful. That's going to keep people in the slums. That's going to not give anybody inspiration to try and do better. And she fought with me in front of the entire class and then made me have a private meeting with her after class to tell me the only reason I have conservative beliefs is because I must have been spoon-fed them from my parents who do not agree with me on the majority of things. Meanwhile, she's a tenured professor, and it's just crazy to not recognize that. And a lot of kids who don't speak up or don't know better, they're just taking that as fact because they trust adults. That's crazy. But it's true. The whole colleges stopped teaching kids how to think and taught them what to think. And I make a good point on the comedy side of this is that in 1984, it's a long time ago for you, the several time machines. You need to buy 2 time machines for you to get to 1984. But George Carlin was a, societal commentator. He was a comic, but he did like socio-political issues, war and famine and everything in between. And he had a special. It was called Carlin on Campus. They recorded it at UCLA because in 1984, the premise was only college kids and college faculty would be on board
with having their ideology challenged the way he was going to. And that was the premise in 1984, that a college was the actual only real bastion of free speech where it wouldn't end in protest or a shooting or someone would burn the library. He could not do that today. Carlin on campus would be Carlin on fire, straight up. So the colleges, it's weird because they kind of are a microcosm of the Democratic Party as a whole. They drifted away from what was their hallmark, which they were the free speech party of the little guy.
The hippies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've kind of gotten away with that.
Anti-war.
Yeah. Now they're
Yeah.
like, no, bomb everybody. Come on.
I mean, as somebody who recently graduated college, I think that it's gotten even worse. I graduated about 2 years ago now. And I think it's just getting worse. I hear it from the students that I speak to. Similar experience. I have a plethora of these experiences to tell you, and I was the only conservative in almost every single class that I was in. I was in a law class, and we were, you know, the McDonald's case where the woman spilled hot coffee.
And they sued.
For those of you in your cars or wherever you are listening, there was a big case way back when where a woman ordered a very hot coffee from McDonald's, put it in her lap, it spilled, gave her third-degree burns. She sued them, and then the Supreme Court, I believe it was deciding should she actually be awarded in this case. And I took the side of McDonald's, saying that this will create an incentive for any homeless person to gather up $3 and change, go buy a coffee, pour it on their legs, sue them for millions of dollars. And everybody in my class, rather than actually think about the argument that I was making, which I believe is a very good argument,
It's not a bad argument.
sound argument to push back on too, to get to real good legal sound decisions, they all just started tagging me, oh, you simp for big corporations. You're obsessed with capitalism. I'm like, guys, where are you even watching? Like, what are these buzzwords? Can we actually have a conversation? And I totally agree that college should be the place for that, but we're not really having that anymore. And when you were avoiding me last time, I spoke about this, that I think that we've fallen into a trap, especially with Mom Donnie, and just really attacking any bad ideas, where there's this group, liberal, the left, whatever you want to call them, they hear conservatives, even middle of the road people. I'd say you and I are in the middle
Reasonable,
of reasonable common sense. And they just hear, oh, conservatives don't like them, so they must be good. And it doesn't really matter what we say. You could try to win them over. You can try to talk to people, but people are just tribal and they don't have like their religious communities. So now they're absorbing their political communities.
That's a good point. It's very reductive now. And it's just, you know, they've turned it into like such a weird team sport that there's not a head-on debate of ideas.
We have that on our side too.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And they just want to ostracize the other side. The one thing that really did benefit Trump in 2024 is they did actually focus on issues this time around, because Biden stayed in the race long enough that we were just comparing the two Americas. If Biden had gotten out earlier, which I don't blame him for sticking around, it's everybody in the media is like, you should have got out. I was like, well, you should have stopped saying he was the sharpest guy in America. I mean, that's the whole point. But it allowed that opening. And that's how Trump's ideas became like a little bit more accessible to people who wouldn't traditionally consider them. And look at the country now. It's actually trending in a good direction. But if we somehow platform socialism, it's not good.
Yeah. It's very interesting that, like, I think the big tent party of the conservative movement is it was great in the beginning, but I think it's what's responsible for the left's gains over the last few years. We don't really have such a strong Republican, GOP, conservative identity. I was just interviewing Republican House members in DC on Tuesday, and I was asking all of them, like, what are actual conservative or Republican values nowadays? It's very hard for us to agree because we let everybody in saying you were politically homeless, you didn't feel the left kicked you out, you were no longer as far left for them to be a part of that group, come over to us. But the left continues to make gains, and I feel like we're just having a lot of infighting. And I don't know, me and my ripe age at 25, I'm trying to look to the past to see what the future will be, but I don't think we've ever experienced this before. And as Elon said, the most entertaining outcome is the most likely. And I'm scared with the Epstein stuff, with everything. We keep going in that direction. I'm like, hey, everybody, let's stop. Time machine.
Debra says the most entertaining outcome is the most likely. So get ready for President Hunter Biden in 2028. Let's go.
Parmesan cheese for everybody.
Make America crack again. I don't know how that Maca. I don't know how that works. But if you watch some of that interview, what's funny about Hunter is he's seeing like the spigot dry up in terms of family money, because there's no traditionally a post-presidential demand is there. You know, you get a book deal, you get a Netflix deal.
Podcasts nowadays.
Sometimes. Okay, I mean, that for the Obamas for sure. Okay, good point. But that demand is, no one is tuning into the Joe Biden podcast.
Can he even talk?
That issue number one.
Yeah.
He's not allowed. I mean, think about that. The Bidens have allowed the crackhead son to do more interviews than the guy who was just president. Everything you need to know.
It's crazy that in the last 2 decades, I'd say, the biggest scandals have all been from the Democratic Party. And the only thing that the general American people seem to think are scandals are related to Trump.
Yeah.
Russiagate, Russia collusion, all these things. It's actually the left that has been doing all of this, from Bill Clinton to now Joe Biden cover up to what we saw at the end of the Obama. I don't know if you've been covering that they did everything they can to basically lie about the Russia connection. And nobody covers it because they basically have a chokehold on the media and now on young people's mind on TikTok. I've been banned a bunch of times. Just
Have you really?
so hundreds of thousands of followers. I was banned at 300,000, 200,000. They just don't like your ideas, take it down. And my videos do well. I'm helping their app, but they don't want it out. And I think the bias has led to this problem. Lack of coverage is a media bias in itself. And what do we do? How do we get out of this, Jimmy? Give us advice. What's the light?
Debra Leah trying to save herself from the TikTok censorship regime. You know what's so funny is everybody was like, China runs TikTok and it's the devil and it's the bad and it's curating the algorithm. But every politician is like, follow me on TikTok. My campaign's on TikTok. Every company, every TV network, this TV network is all over TikTok. I don't understand if they probably must know something we don't in terms of the editorial direction changing because TikTok's going to be sold. I would like to believe that because otherwise to me, I'm like, wait, what are we doing here? It
just keeps getting delayed and delayed.
Yeah.
I just thought of this and I think you would agree. I think the reason TikTok has reached so many people, I love TikTok even for news and videos of things that you want to see that normally somebody would go to X for. I think TikTok is an illiterate man's X.
That's funny.
Because they're just watching the videos instead of reading posts. Like I'll read articles or you see they could post so many words on the post now. It's like a paragraph on there. But
illiterate Twitter.
Yeah, it's the illiterate Twitter. It's for people who only want to see videos. It's like the picture book version of it.
Wow. How about it? Debra Leah breaking it down the way few can. I would tell you to follow her on TikTok, but that's not an option at the moment. Where are you on? You are at the
Debra. Debra, because I'm young.
Debra.
Not Deborah.
No.
No, young. No soccer, no minivan.
No, it's coming.
It's coming, maybe.
The Debra Leah. Yeah, you will. Well, that's true. You're going to be in a Honda Odyssey. Isn't that by law for Jewish person in New York State?
I was going to say.
You have to buy a Honda
Odyssey. It's like the Muncie and the Lakewood people. You have to have at least like 10 seats. For me, I'm thinking like a Lamborghini Urus.
Oh, all right.
That's also an SUV.
I respect that.
Big.
But you're paying Lamborghini money to get something that looks like any regular run-of-the-mill SUV. That's
true.
My argument against the Lamborghini SUV is you're not getting the distinction of a Lamborghini.
I mean, a BMW. I don't buy German cars, so my options are limited.
Why? What do you Jews have against the German? I'm kidding.
Just a thing or two,
Debra Leah. Keeping up with the group. Good stuff. We'll do it again.
Thanks for having me.
Biden is saying the Democrats turned on his father and they weren't loyal and blah, 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 blah. Hunter Biden, you know how they say people who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones? People who knocked up their brother's widow shouldn't give lectures about loyalty to anybody.
Tell them like it is.
We're gonna. 888-788-9910, the phone number if you want to be a part of the show. And it's all over the map in this final hour of the day. We got a lot of developments at the White House. Donald Trump saying Barack Obama could be the subject of a criminal referral because of his hand in the Russiagate probe. There's an embarrassing fallout about the firing of Stephen Colbert. And Alan Dershowitz, on a day when the Deputy Attorney General Todd Stanch says he's going to meet with Ghislaine Maxwell, here is Alan Dershowitz saying, not a bad idea, clip 24.
She knows everything. She is the Rosetta Stone. She knows everything. She arranged every single trip with everybody. She knows everything. And if she were just given use immunity, she could be compelled to testify. I'm told that she actually would be willing to testify, and there'd be no reason for her to withhold any information. So I don't see any negative in giving her the kind of use immunity that would compel her to testify. So she ought to be summoned in front of a congressional committee.
Now, listen. I don't want to get bogged down in another hour of Epstein analysis because I don't have any more answers today than I did when we blew last Tuesday's show on it. But understand, is it not a little curious that this woman is doing 20 years for sex trafficking and we haven't tried anyone for being on the receiving end of that trafficking? Now, you could say, oh, well, they were all going to Epstein. Maybe, but she was actually his partner. And they weren't doing all the sexing with all of these people. Okay, if you're telling me there were thousands of kids involved, okay, and there were thousands of people or hundreds of people going down to their island, it's basically like I said, we've got somebody doing time for murder, but we don't have a dead body. It's weird. And given the amount of powerful people that are involved, it doesn't necessarily pass the sniff test. That's all I'm trying to say. And it's a little crazy to me that we've tried to put this whole thing to bed without at least having a word with the woman responsible for the whole entire thing. Do you understand that not only did Ghislaine Maxwell recruit the girls, not only did she continue to do business with Epstein after he was a registered sex offender, but she also got her pilot's license so she could helicopter people to the island so they wouldn't show up on the flight manifests anymore.
What in the wide world of sports is going on here?
Now, again, how many times do people actually shield their involvement with a party if everything happening is above board? The answer is never. Okay, if a bunch of guys are going out on a Friday night and they're all married and, they go out wherever the hell they're going to go, but the night ends with them going to the diner or to Denny's or to IHOP, any of those 24-hour jams that make America the best. Greasy stuff after midnight. It's as good as your life's ever going to get. It's just greasy stuff after midnight. But the point is, when guys are coordinating a story for their wives, all right, if Stephanie asks, we went to Top Golf. We were hitting balls for a while. Yeah, they were using their balls, all right. But it wasn't a Top Golf. Yes. Someone was holding on to the putter, but it wasn't them. That's the point. When guys are lying about where they went, it's because they are up to no good.
When you're right, and you're right.
Amen. So you understand the fact that just Ghislaine Maxwell had a helicopter so they'd no longer get found on the flight registry. Doesn't that kind of tell you that people knew they were going somewhere where they weren't supposed to be going?
You have a good eye, my man.
Guys, the fact that Bill Gates' wife openly says, yeah, we broke up because of Epstein. He kept hanging out with Epstein, all the chicks down at that island. It's Bill Gates' wife, second richest woman in the world, going, no, they were doing all kinds of stuff down there, and I could not abide. Okay, yet we're like, the story's over. There's nothing to hear. There was a time in this country where the most powerful people in the world being linked to a sex scandal would not be the biggest story of the year. It would be the only story of the year. The idea that this isn't being covered at all, it just looks like a little bit of chicanery. I don't have the answers. I have bigger fish to fry because I don't have the answers. But here is Stephen A. Smith, a guy who likes to, flirt with the idea of running for president. He's not running for president. He wouldn't win. But I understand he likes the relevance and the speculation, if for no other reason than you're competing in a division, it being the Democratic Party, that is the weakest division in sports. They're at 28% in the polls right now. So pretty much anybody out there thinks they could be the next nominee based on the simple fact that they saw the last nominee. This is a party that's willing to nominate stupid people.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
Here it is, Stephen A. saying Trump brought up the Redskins this week to distract from Epstein. Clip 19.
There are millions upon millions of people in the United States of America that are not necessarily happy with some of the things that he's doing. So what does he do? He caters to his base because when you look at the Redskins name, obviously it's something that needed to be changed. And by him bringing that issue up, we all know from a political landscape, it's much ado about nothing. It's just him catering to his base to make sure that he serves to appease them in some way, to distract them from other issues, including the Epstein files, by the way, because a lot of people associated with the MAGA right want those files released. And you even have Republican representatives on the Hill wanting those files released, wanting to see for themselves because they're not buying what the administration is saying when they say that there's absolutely nothing there.
Now, where I would draw a line there is I do genuinely think he wants the Redskins back and he wants the Indians back. You can tell me the timing and Epstein and everything in between. It's not that. The people on the right, I'm talking Twitter, the people who made their living rage baiting you about Epstein only to get into power with Trump and now tell you the government's telling the truth all along. I mean, think about Bongino and Cash Patel. Bongino had merch that Epstein didn't kill himself. Now he's a member of the government, and he's like, of course he killed himself. What do you want from me? And I understand his hands might be tied. I'm not, giving Dan a hard time. I loved working with him here. He was great. But the point is, when it comes to the curious position a lot of cabinet officials find themselves in, yes, that is a real thing. But it doesn't mean the Redskin thing isn't. Native Americans donated the Washington Redskin logo to the NFL in 1971. Native Americans, by an 84% margin, want representation in professional sports because it's the only place they have left in society. Yeah, there are towns named after them, and that is that. Mascots were not chosen to mock culture. Mascots were chosen because these people were known as fierce fighters. That's the point of sports. You're supposed to be a tough thing. You're supposed to be a cool thing. You're a Golden State Warrior, something like that. You're a Dallas Cowboy. That's the point. You're tied to some kind of local representation. And when it comes to this fight, I do believe Trump wants the fight when it comes to the Redskins and the Indians and everything in between, because it's getting back to that pre-cancel culture era, where we're not over-policing superficial things like sports and comedy. Now, you can tell me the timing's a little weird. I mean, to be honest with you, if you were just looking for a red meat distraction for the base, it ain't the Redskins, it's the Obamas. That's a point you could make. But I truly believe when you look at the curiosity of everything going on right now, I think we find ourselves in this position where the bigger frustration for Trump is not Jeffrey Epstein. It's the fact that they are consequentially doing things for the country right now that are phenomenal. And they're not getting the attention they want. And in a lot of ways, that's their fault because they've kind of created this Epstein distraction by letting Pam Bondi hype it up as much as she did. But I don't believe it's Pam Bondi's call just the same. But I'm not the political expert here. The political expert is Hunter Biden. I love these clips so much, and they'll tie full circle to the conversation we're having about Hollywood and the election and Epstein and everything in between. Okay, Hunter Biden is lashing out right now because the Biden brand post-presidency isn't worth anything. Traditionally, you would leave the White House, you'd get a massive book deal, you'd get some type of development deal with a streaming platform or some type of big media company, Disney or Netflix or something like that. This time around, it ain't happening for the Bidens because he was the most historically unpopular president of the last 100 years. So he didn't leave town to a golden parachute because nobody's going to hand a podcast to a guy that doesn't speak English.
I'll lead an effective strategy to mobilize true international effort to pressure.
What is that word? I don't know that word. We had a president you couldn't play Scrabble with. But because Hunter made so much money off of the Ukraine deals and the influence peddling and everything else, he's furious right now because there's no more Joe Biden money to glom off post-presidency. So he's essentially just trying to drum up his own. Hey, I'm Hunter, and F you, and F them, and F that. Maybe I should be the face of the Democratic Party. Should he be? No. I mean, not if they ever want to win another election. But he doesn't see it that way. When you are a spoiled rich kid, like a wildly spoiled rich kid, which he was, and a corrupt drug addict just the same, knocked up his brother's widow, had an affair with his brother's widow, and got her addicted to crack. I don't want to cast aspersions on this man's character. Clearly, he's an upstanding member of society who just innocently had an affair with his brother's widow and got her addicted to crack. That doesn't make him a bad guy. Time was you could fool around with your brother's widow, get her addicted to crack. Nobody gave you a hard time about it. You know what I mean? I mean, poor Hunter. Am I right, you guys?
What the hell is the world coming to?
Sarcasm aside. Okay, yes, he had an affair with his brother's widow, got her addicted to crack, and while they were having that affair, he knocked up a stripper behind her back. Okay, this is the guy morality policing the Democratic Party right now. But the rant is so good because he's basically lashing out and trying to rehabilitate the Biden brand. Here is the claim about the debate that ended spectacularly. Clip 3.
I know exactly what happened in that debate. He flew around the world, basically, in the mileage that he could have flown around the world 3 times.
Yeah.
He's 81 years old. He's tired as shit. Give him Ambien to be able to sleep. He gets up on the stage, and he looks like he's a deer in the headlights.
I mean, come on, Hunter Biden.
Come on, don't bullshit me.
Joe Biden, just so we're all on the same page, was at Camp David for 5 consecutive days leading up to the debate. He was not flying around the world and they don't give a guy a sleep aid before he goes on stage at a presidential debate, they shoot him up with B12 and everything in between. Okay, if you took the man at that debate and gave him an Ambien, he probably would have died on stage. But why is he doing that? He's making an excuse for Biden's performance because he wants you guys to believe there's still a viable Joe Biden out there. There's still a Joe Biden you could be throwing money at. Come on, guys. Where's the book money? Where's the Netflix money? What's going on here? Where's the reality show? Keeping Up with the Bidens. But the problem is we've already seen, you know how the reality shows, they just go to the beach the whole time and hang out? Okay, that was the Biden presidency. The guy spent 67% of his presidency on vacation. That's how we knew things were getting serious. You know, in the Trump administration, when things are getting serious, they go to the Situation Room. In the Biden administration, when things were getting serious, they sent Joe to Delaware to go to the beach. They're like adults are talking. Go help Joe carry a sand and make a castle, would you? But all right, man, okay, yeah. So watch out. Make sure there's no attack. Make sure Corn Pop's not there. Make it a competing sandcastle.
Corn Pop was a bad dude.
But the Hunter lash out, it's so funny. And we're going to get into it a little more with Byron Donalds when he comes up. Because this all ties together. The Epstein list and the vicious effort that was made to shield us from it while the Democrats controlled the House and the Senate. Okay, it was their effort to protect people in power that were a part of their own personal gravy train. Now Trump's in the White House. The Democrats are acting like they wanted this thing to come out all along, even though they could have put it out 2 years ago or 4 years ago, or at the tail end of the Obama administration after that Epstein plea deal was made. But was there any interest in the Democratic Party?
The answer would be no.
Answer would be no. Now somebody else is in power. They don't want the list out. They just want to act like they do, so people hold it against Trump. But ultimately, the reason they're trying to protect the people on that list is because of the money. It's the same reason Hunter's lashing out at the people who turned on his dad. Now, to be clear, they turned on his dad just the same because they lost an avenue to more money. When you are no longer viable politically, they could no longer fundraise off you, which is why everybody who told us Joe Biden was so sharp and he was outrunning the interns behind closed doors, and I know he looked bad on the news, but you should see him when the cameras are off. We can't even keep up with the guy. That's what they were telling you. Okay, because they still were able to make money off him. Once he got on the debate stage and glitched out and didn't know what planet he was on, they realized they no longer needed the money anymore. Ergo, they no longer needed Joe Biden. Okay, but here's a newsflash. The Democrats might not need Joe Biden, but Hunter does because he has no job qualifications other than knocking up strippers. Okay, and I don't know how much time you spent on LinkedIn these days, but they're not really looking for you to knock up strippers. Hell, they don't even want you to go to Coldplay with the head of HR. So the point is, Hunter's in a place of desperation, and the dog is going to keep on barking, but the circus is leaving town.
That is correct.